You're watching Morning at NTV.
You're watching Morning at NTV. Many thanks for joining us. Let's get directly into our Kickstarter conversation this morning. And the 16 days of activism, beg your pardon, against gender-based violence is an annual international campaign that kicks off on the 25th of November, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and runs until the 10th of December, Human Rights Day. Of course, it was started by activists at the inaugural Women's Global Leadership Institute in 1991 and continues to be coordinated each year by the Center for Women's Global Leadership. It is used as an organizing strategy by individuals and organizations around the world to call for the prevention and elimination of violence against women and girls. The campaign rallies activists and non-governmental organizations, governments and the private sector leaders, academia and other stakeholders across the world to demand an end to gender-based violence. Since its initiation, of course, in 1991, campaign has continued to maintain its eminence as an established annual event dedicated to achieving higher visibility of gender-based violence as a violation of human rights and not just a problem for women. So today we will be looking at the roles different stakeholders can play in ending violence against women and girls. And so joining us this morning for this discussion, I do have Ms. Regina Bafaki, the Executive Director for Action for Development, and Mr. Julius Chisembo, a renowned women rights activist. Many thanks for joining us and welcome to Morning at NTV.
Thank you and good morning, viewers.
Good morning. You know, I think we can start from the point of setting the foundation and defining what violence against women and girls is. Because a majority of the times, whenever we are having perpetrators, they say, but I didn't know. I didn't know I was actually doing this. I didn't know I was violating the rights of this girl, the rights of this woman. So when you're talking about violence against women and girls, what essentially does it mean, Mr. Chisembo?
Good morning, moderator. I want to greet every other person that is listening to us. And I want to salute all the men that are awake and watching the TV.
Yes.
And those who support their women in each and every activity they do. Can you work together? Thank you so much. Violence against women.
Thank you.
What does it mean? It means those are some of the acts or omissions, what you didn't do, what you have done, that actually hurts a woman, that actually hurts a girl. Things that you do that defame, that dehumanize a woman or a girl. Things not of their interest and things that violate their human rights. Things that are not acceptable in the day-to-day living in the community, at workplace, things like discrimination against the women and girls, things like sexual harassment, things like unvalued efforts of the women and girls, particularly in the homes, and things like not respecting the girls and rights. They tantamount to violence against women because the women who want to live a good life like you, have you compared yourself, the way of living that you would like to live, to that of a woman?
Right.
Or there's something that you think you are doing above? Lastly, it is about our dynamics. We are looking for equality, the equal sharing of responsibilities, benefits, and opportunities. Are you doing that? Short of that is violence against women and girls.
You know, you've talked about equality, and the big hashtag that is driving this conversation for the 16 days is hashtag Generation Equality.
Yes.
Quite pertinent. Ms. Regina, you know, you've been at the forefront of this fight.
Yes.
Where can you put us at, especially as Ugandans? Where are we at with regards to acknowledging the rights of women and girls and respecting just that?
Thank you very much. with regard to promoting gender equality or equality between men and women, Uganda is trying. We've at least tried to put policies and legislations and institutions in place that try to address or promote gender equality. However, we still have experiences and incidences where women's rights and girls' rights are being violated. And of course, that now denies or puts a question on the promotion of the equality that we are talking about. When you talk about the hashtag of generation equality, we are looking at everyone, young, old, the duty bearers, the rights holders, all being held accountable for the promotion of women and girls' rights. We have, of course, the legislation, but at the same time, we also have people who continue to violate the women and girls' rights with impunity. We have duty bearers who have connived with the perpetrators to violate or not, or to deny the girls and women justice. And so, as we celebrate the 16 days of activism, the question we are putting out to the public, to the men, women, young and old, is what is your role? What are you doing to make sure that we no longer, or we stop counting the numbers of the women who have been violated, but we are talking about the women and girls whose rights are being protected. We are talking about the reduced, or if possible, the elimination of that violence against women and girls. And so the generation equality, count me in, is very, very timely at this moment, because there is a lot of lamentation with regard to the violation of women and girls' rights, despite the fact that, as I've mentioned earlier, that we have legislation, we have created actually a lot of awareness about the women and girls' rights. We have created a lot of awareness about gender-based violence, but that rhetoric must stop. We must act. And what does that mean? That me and you should not wait until that girl, until that woman has been maimed. We should not wait until that girl and woman has been killed. We should not wait until that girl has been married off. We should not wait until that woman and young lady has been harassed and has left her job or is underperforming, and therefore she's told to leave because you looked on while she was being harassed. So count me in, very timely, that it's time for us to all be held responsible. And we must all be held accountable for the actions and inactions we've not done.
For the actions and inactions.
Yes.
That's very powerful. But my question to you would be, you've critically mentioned that the people who are compromised to stop these women and girls from accessing justice, especially the critical stakeholders in that justice system. So if we have a community watching you today, for example, they have numerous cases of women who have been violated, women who have been abused in their marriages, sexually abused and harassed, girls, our children. They have tried as much as possible to front these issues to the relevant bodies. But what happens? These cases hit a snag. So where do they start from? What's the starting point? Mr. Chisimbo.
Good morning once again. The fight against elimination of all discrimination against women and gender-based violence against women, girls and boys, women and men is for everyone, like she has said. Where do they start? One, we are saying let them open up. Wherever you are, whether in the community, whether you are where, you open up. If you see the violation of the rights of the women, speak out. Because when you don't speak out, you are sitting on a time bomb. Any time, that bomb will blow. Two, can we, this awareness we are on is to help people realize that they have got to stand up and demand for these services. Nobody is going to produce them on a silver platter. We have got to demand. does this woman get justice? If it is a court system, has she got what she was supposed to have gotten? Or there are technical issues, there are jumps here and there, and she's missing out? Is it political? Is this woman respected? Because remember, if even men like me, I have a mother, I have a sister,
Right.
I have a daughter, I have somebody female out there, she's being molested. And Uganda has gone ahead to criminalize violence, call it domestic violence, whatever form of violence, through the laws. One, we have the Domestic Violence Act 2010. Irrespective of who is participating, because people keep saying, no, you are protecting women. We do not protect women. We protect women against violence.
Right.
And we also protect men against violence. But the men are not coming up to say it. The research or the records that we have, more women suffer this violence than men. And two, we are saying, if you are in a responsible position, what have you done
What have you done?
to eliminate
Right.
violence against women or violence? What have you done? What are the efforts? If you have failed, have you referred? Are there any referrals?
You know, Mr. Chisembo, and I think I'll pose this to Miss Regina. You know, I was listening to one of the experts, and they said that quite a number of the things we grapple with start from a mindset
Yes, yes,
point.
yes,
If
yes.
we are to change anything, you have
Yes.
to change
The
the
mindset.
mindset.
Yes, yes.
Here we are in Africa, living in a very patriarchal society.
Yes, yes.
If a woman today walks in the streets of Kampala and they're spanked, and she causes trouble, people,
Yes.
you know, the thing will be turned against her. Like, what do you think is so special about you?
Yeah.
So there's this culture of victimizing.
Yes.
Victimizing women whenever they're abused, whenever they're harassed here and there. So where do we start with this change of mindset? Bearing in mind that we're in a totally patriarchal society, like he mentioned. Where do we start?
Of course, there are so many efforts that have been put in place and made to make sure that there is awareness creation. But as you're saying, there is a lot of patriarchy, there are a lot of stereotypes, there are lots of actions that people do just because of how they have been brought up. So it's about socialization. And for me, the starting point would be the values that we inculcate in our children. If you start by inculcating the value of respect in your children, the value of love into your children, obviously there is no way that child will grow up into a person that does not respect women and girls. But also, with time, of course, when you go to school, schools have a very key role also to play, because most of the children spend most of their time in schools. And so the teachers, the administrators in the different schools have a very key role to play in modeling children into responsible citizens, because if you are not responsible, obviously those are the people who will insult, who will throw unnecessary words to the women, who will give unnecessary touches and unwanted touches to the women and girls. And so for me, I think the starting point is, how do we inculcate values of respect and love to the population, but also we need to know that a human being deserves dignity. A woman and a girl deserve dignity, and therefore if you know that, as Kisembo says, that in your life you have women who happen to be mothers, aunts and daughters, how would you feel if their rights were violated?
Correct. And I love what you're saying is that the efforts need to be bottom up, from our children up, because they're the change setters. And of course, we're saying the generation to come ought not to fight with some of these vices. When I look at the statistics, 2018, courtesy of WarNet, they're saying that 68% of violations against girls and women are not reported. 68%.
Yes.
Not reported. That's a big number. Is it that our women don't know where to report these cases, or because they feel suppressed, or maybe threats from the perpetrators? What exactly is it? And just for the sake of the woman and the girl watching us today, if at all it happens to them, because you're saying that we're in a society whereby everyone is vulnerable, regardless of your socio-economic standing. So if at all anything like that happens to a girl, woman watching us today, what is their first point of call or seeking for help?
Thank you very much. First of all, the 68% not reporting. What are the reasons? One, they are intimidated. Down there where they live, you have just said, we have been brought up in a patriarch kind of society. The men are respected, have it all. Two, we have also not reached out to our women, to our children. Some other person has done so with a different message. And the message is, do not report. A man is not reported. A boy is not responsible for his actions against a girl. Three, why these cases are not being reported is that the systems also, for a long time, have been prohibitive. For instance, a woman goes to report a domestic violence case at the police or even at the LOC1. What response does she get? Or she gets that these are bedroom matters. They are not supposed to go to the market. They are not supposed to go to air. But we are talking about life of somebody, survival of somebody, human rights being violated of somebody. And you are reducing them to a mere bedroom fact. That's why you have seen that many of these murders also appear in those bedrooms. Then the last one, why these people do not support, is also that they also lack support within the society in which they live, even at home. If you mentioned going to report a man to the police station or to the LOCs, even your own auntie, the one who's supposed to have inaugurated you into marriage, will also give you that, a man is never reported. So given those circumstances, a woman finds it difficult to go out alone and report. Now, why? We are coming out, say, for instance, the 16 days of activism is creating awareness that is not a crime, it is not criminal for you to go out and report violence against women. If you are being molested outside there, down there, find a way, speak to a neighbor, speak to a friend.
So the starting point is at least speak to someone.
Speak to someone else, so that when you will be helped. Maybe
so who is this someone? Because like you clearly said, you tell your auntie will tell you, my dear, here we don't report men. Just keep it down. It's family matters. We'll handle it. So who is this someone to speak to?
Who is this someone? Maybe at the grassroots, a friend. Speak to a friend. Irrespective of what you expect as an answer, speak out.
Yes.
You never know. This person you have spoken to can also speak to another one. And you will find a Mr. Chisembo who will take it further. Because you will not know who is going to help you and who is not going to help you. We are saying, look for a confidant. Look for somebody next to you. Speak out. If you are in an LOC meeting, raise up your hand and speak it out.
Okay.
In the LOC meeting, there are many people. Not everybody will shut you down.
All right.
Even if they do, they will have heard the message.
So make sure that you speak out. Ms. Regina, if it's a woman who has been, unfortunately, we know when it comes to gender-based violence and violence against girls, the critical thing is sexual abuse. So if you're having a girl or a woman who has been raped, and at that point in time, every second counts.
It does count.
So if it happens to a woman or a girl this morning, or ever happens, what should be the first point of call? Do I rush to the police? Do I rush to my confidant? Or do I rush to the health center?
You should rush to the police station. And if you are near a health center, please do that, because evidence matters. Because if you don't, then of course your crime will be watered down. We have had cases where girls have been defiled, women raped, and because they did not know what to do, they bathe or wash themselves. And of course that erases the evidence. So the most important thing is to report to the immediate either police station, local council, if you are close, and a health center. But also what is important for us is to know that if I have even reported to you as an auntie, as a mother as a sister, please hold my hand, because rape and defilement is traumatizing.
Right.
It traumatizes the victim, it traumatizes the survivor, and therefore she needs that support. And then, of course, under whichever circumstances it has happened, let the person to whom the girl or woman has run to be responsive. Because in most cases, we play the blame game.
Right.
We have had instances where the girls or women have been asked, where were you? What were you doing? Maybe you pushed for it. And of course, what does that mean? It actually pushes, it limits, it inhibits the would-be girls to report to the different sources of support. But I wanted also to add on to what Kisembo had mentioned about people not reporting. Like, for example, if a girl or a woman has been raped or a girl been defiled, the reason why they don't report is about the stigma. The stigma, because people in most cases do not understand, do not appreciate what the girl and the woman have had as an experience, but are also continuing to experience as a result of that act. And therefore, the stigma, the intimidation, the humiliation, the humanization that the woman or the girl goes through is just too much. And therefore, society has to learn to support the girls and the women
And the
that
women.
experience
Right.
violence. And then, of course, when they go to police, we've had instances where actually the police has also not done its part.
Yes.
But yeah, and so what we're also calling upon them is that please play your role. By the mere fact that the girl comes to you, her hopes are in you. So don't frustrate her.
Mr. Chisembo,
Yeah.
Yes.
she's pointed out to something that is quite critical. You know, some of these cases are actually indeed reported,
Yes.
but they're played down.
Yes.
So in terms of sensitizing the police, because I was looking through some of the, breakdowns in terms of how do you offer survivor-centered care to someone who has been abused, to a victim. One of the critical issues was you need to offer the same range of sensitivity.
Yes.
That sensitivity lacks, especially with our security officials.
Yes.
So where do we start in terms of educating them? Is the onus on CSOs, activists like you, or is the onus on government and the leadership of the police to train them on how to handle such matters?
Thank you very much. The onus is on everyone, first of all, because one, your employer should have in place facilities and information about violence against women. Two, the CSOs, NGOs, and other partners have tried to incorporate what we call duty bearers, and police is among them, and other security agencies about how to handle these cases, the sensitivity of these cases. I want to here thank police. They have created the position of Family and Child Protection Unit. And many actors have concentrated into bringing into play this particular sector of the police, so that they are able also to initiate others to give them the information. Because what is killing the fight against violence against women is lack of information. That accountability is missing. What is my role? Where do I start from? Who is responsible for giving me what to start from? We are saying each of us is responsible in whatever form, because you have a mind that can really judge that this act is not lawful. Talk to the next person. If it is a security agency, talk to your superior. We have engaged the commanders, we have engaged the DPCs. They know much about this one. If it is the local council, talk to your LOC. Okay. We have engaged the executives. We have even asked them, while in your meetings, get somebody to talk about gender-based violence.
So it should be a daily daily
Yes,
efforts
yes,
to
yes.
make sure that we equip these people
Yes,
with
yes.
the necessary skills on how to
Yes,
handle
yes,
such
yes,
matters.
yes.
It's not a one-off thing.
No,
It's
it's
not.
not. It's
Even
not.
at home,
It's not.
we are asking ourselves, we are actually employing ourselves to talk about it in our homes, even to equip our own children, that they know once you see this signal, this is what it means, this is what you're supposed to do.
All right.
Even a child knows that if a man really touches me and she's a female, I should talk to my teacher, my senior teacher, I should talk to a teacher around, so that I am protected. I should talk to my mother, I should talk to my father.
All right.
All what we are saying that when they have talked to you, you also now take it in the seriousness. She has done it. Also talk to some other person.
All right.
Take an action.
Take an action. Confidentiality.
Yes.
Over and above sensitivity, there's that critical pointer to confidentiality, because you know most of these girls are actually abused. Most of these women are abused in the confines of, quote unquote, what we all think ought to be safe spaces, our homes.
Yeah.
And so when this girl sneaks out after the abuse has happened, she's been threatened to zip it and keep quiet, and maybe she sneaks out and goes to report.
Yes.
This is a case that ought to be handled with utmost confidentiality,
Yeah.
such that it doesn't go back to harm her, because this is a child who'll still go back home because she has no place to go. So what should be the confidentiality structure in such a case? And what will it take for us to get to that level of excellence and ideals in that matter?
Of course, what is important is for one to know the dangers you might expose this woman or girl if you let go of the information that she has shared. We've had a lot of cases related to sexual harassment, especially at places of work. And the challenge has been that actually the victims or the survivors fear to talk, fear to break the silence, because they do not know that the person they are going to tell will keep it a secret. And yet by the time this person comes to you, she has confidence in you that you are actually going to help her. So confidentiality is one, of course, of the values and principles that is very, very important when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence. And therefore, to the different duty bearers and the rights holders to whom the girls and the women come to, need to know that this is a very strong principle in terms of protecting and responding to gender-based violence.
Right.
Yeah.
But if the information has to be relayed, like you clearly mentioned, for example, it to be reported to someone at the lower level, and it's information that has to be taken up in the different stages. You understand?
Yes,
it
I
has to escalate.
Yes.
How does it escalate and still maintain? How do we escalate this information and still maintain the level of confidence? Do we say that training again is critical, and also having, you know, structures that govern that?
Of course, yes, yes.
Yes, one of them is training.
Yes.
Whoever is handling, I mentioned earlier, that we try to train these people in the areas of handling these cases, because they are very sensitive.
Yes.
And once they have leaked out, then you have really brought chaos to a survivor.
Actually endanger
And
the
endanger,
lives.
yeah,
endanger the
yeah,
lives of
yeah,
the survivor.
yeah.
And many others now will keep quiet.
Yes.
So we are telling these people, if you handle it and you do not handle it in open, if you sense somebody comes crying to you, is really bleeding, I don't see why you put in public and say, you tell us, lady, what are you saying? No, take her somewhere. You can take her in a corner, in a private place, outside, at the end of the compound, and ask her intimately, what is the problem? And once you have known it, for us, we are even trained. Sometimes you don't even disclose with any other person except the next person. And the next person is also trained also to handle it in that category and until it reaches somebody who is to bring it out, either in the magistrate's court, because they will have now to arrest and maybe try somebody.
All right, so
But-
training and having structures
Yes.
on how to relay this information.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
of course, sometimes also we have realized that there are limitations in terms of providing that safe space. I've had experiences where you see a woman or a girl coming to some police stations that actually double as reception centers for other cases, and therefore the issue of confidentiality is compromised.
Fair,
And therefore, what would appeal, of course, is that provision of the safe spaces. But also, as Kisembo says, training is very, very important. Yeah.
Wow. All right. This is a heavy conversation this morning, and I just hope that all that you're saying here is actually taken up and effected on ground. As we wrap this up, the rape culture. There's a rape
Yes,
culture
yes, yes.
that is rife.
Yes.
We're having 68% of women and girls keeping quiet. And this is just a number that has been brought out by this report. I'm sure it's higher.
Yes,
Yes.
it's higher. It's higher.
And when it comes to rape, there's rape that you actually did not foresee, and there's rape within the ambit of what we call safe places and
Yes,
safe
yes,
spaces.
yes,
In
yes.
marriage, for example, rape does happen.
Yeah, it does.
Married women are actually raped on a daily.
Yeah.
In the streets, in the marketplaces. So where do we start? Actually, can I just start with this, Mr. Chisembo, and you'll do the honors of defining this. What is rape?
Thank you very much, moderator. Let me define rape from the way I understand it,
Yes.
not the legal way. That is, for me, the simplest way is having or attempting to have sex with somebody without her knowledge or his knowledge, what they call consent.
Consent.
Even the attempt. I'm not saying that one. So the attempt to have that, the attempt, the intentions to her or to him that I want to have sex with you. To me, that's what I call rape.
Okay.
Because you are doing it against somebody's will. You are harassing somebody, you are putting somebody into that act unwillingly. Either you are using your position to rape this girl, maybe in offering her a job, offering her good marks, because you take care of her, because you pay her a salary, so you are taking that advantage.
All right.
So I'm calling that as rape.
Okay, that is rape. And it boils down to that critical factor. It turns to become rape when there's no consent. So how does consent look like, Miss Regina? What's the face of consent? What's the face of consent?
The face of consent is you approach me,
Yes.
ask me
Yes.
whether I am willing to have sex with you. If I am in a position to have it and we agree, then of course it ceases to be rape. And therefore, rape is forced
Okay,
sex without consent.
without consent.
Without consent. And as Julia says, it is used as a weapon to dehumanize women and girls, and even men, by the way, especially when during during wars.
Yes.
It is also used as a source of intimidation. It is also used as a source of control.
Okay.
Because when you've been raped, there is part of you that has been taken away. Your life has been ripped. And so your self-confidence, your self-esteem all goes. And therefore, for someone who used, for example, to demand, to negotiate, that ceases to happen because there is part of your life that has been taken away. And of course, there are big consequences or effects of rape.
Right.
Yeah, because it is really the worst crime or the worst violation of a women or girls' rights.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. And do you think there's need for us to educate our girls and our women and our boys
yes.
alike?
Oh,
Because
yes.
nowadays
yes.
even boys are violated.
Yes.
When I was looking at the statistics, they're saying that sexual violence against children is now high. And they're saying it's 74% on girls and 52% of boys. As a mother to a boy, in this day and age, I'm a worried woman.
Yes.
So where do we start in terms of educating our children, especially on that critical subject of consent? Because, you know, consent is not just about what you say verbally, but also the nonverbal cues speak volumes. your body language speaks volumes. So how do we start coining this language, especially to our young ones, you know, for them to understand sex talk for a young child as young as 2 years old, because it happens to them,
It
even
happens.
younger.
Yes.
Where do we start for the boy child, and then Miss Regina for the girl child in 1 minute?
Thank you very much. For the boy child, we need to initiate our boys into positive living in a community. Do not harass the opposite sex. Do not force, do not use force on anything, be it asking for food from a fellow person, whether it's a boy or a girl. Consent, ask, and then you are given.
Okay.
And then we are telling them, take care of the message. Actually, scrutinize the message that you are receiving. I'm talking to a 2-year boy
Yes.
or a 2-year girl,
Yes.
and I'm telling her, if you see somebody, a stranger, if you see somebody higher than you, and is telling you something that you do not understand, run to somebody bigger than you.
Okay. Okay.
That's my starting point.
All right.
For the boys.
Okay.
And then 2, we also tell them, live as responsible citizens. Never attempt to hurt anybody. Anything you perceive as hurting somebody, whether you are right or wrong, first halt.
Okay. All right, Miss Regina, to our young girls.
To a young girl, it is important for the young girls to know who they are, what their body consists or is. Because if you start by telling what the breasts are, where the private parts are, what the ears and the other parts are supposed to be for, you are actually empowering that young girl. Because the moment someone starts, for example, praying with her genitalia, she will know, no, this is wrong. Then the other thing is to let the girls learn to speak out. Children learn.
Children learn.
Children learn and learn a lot. So when you tell them that this is wrong and if it happens, report, obviously they will do that.
Right.
But also try to make them to be assertive. Assertive. Assertiveness is very important for young girls.
Right.
And then, of course, them being confident. And if need be, teach them how to be defensive.
Okay, taekwondo.
Yes, yes, yes. We have had
Yes.
cases where actually young kids, young girls have thrown paper to this boy
Yes.
who is trying to defile.
Right.
And so for me, it should be a holistic approach.
Okay.
That the girl knows her body, knows the body touches, but she also knows that she needs to speak out. Being confident
All right.
is very important.
Being confident is very important.
Yes.
And you know, parenting is never easy.
It's
No.
not.
So also making sure that you strike the balance between being a disciplinarian and being a
Yes.
parent who the children can easily come and talk to you and
I
report
know.
such cases is
Yes.
a tricky balance. I think that's a conversation, a whole conversation for another day, parenting
Yes,
and how to do
parenting.
parenting
Yes,
right
yes.
in this day and age.
Yeah.
Many thanks for coming through. We've learned quite a bit. Hashtag Morning at NTV. Let's continue with the engagements. Of course, as we wrap up, last pointers to this, ending the rape culture. Do we now say that it's down to creating awareness, down to training, down to sensitizing the masses? How do we do this? In 3 pointers, how do we end the rape culture? 3 pointers.
Thank you very much. Let me start. Ending the rape culture. 1, we have said we need to train and speak out. Let's speak against bad vices. That's 1. 2, let's also now instill morality. Let's now reinvent morality into our society, into our people, into our girls, into our boys. That anything that is bad, stop it. And 3, like she has said, we need really to educate our children and even ourselves about the importance of the parts of our body. Some parts are secretive and they are only exclusive for myself. It is me who admits, it's me who rejects.
Okay.
And then finally, about that rape culture, is that everybody should respect the rights of the others.
The rights of the others.
Yes, if I need something from you, I must consult you. there must be that agreement, there must be that consent.
Right.
You must allow me to use, to have, to enjoy part of your rights.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Chisembo. Ms. Regina, 3 pointers to ending the rape culture.
The rape culture has to end. In most cases, we have actually put the survivors at the center. I would also like to see us focusing on the perpetrators, other than giving them punitive measures or punishing them. What else that can be done to make sure that the other person does not do it? Because we have seen our laws sometimes are not that very good,
Yes.
especially when it comes to such cases. Somebody can even be given bond.
Right.
And that is, of course, very, very demeaning and frustrates the people who have gone to seek justice.
So we need to relook the laws.
We need to look at the laws. And
Right.
the other is, of course, let's pass the laws that are pending. We have the Sexual Offences Bill. We have the Employment Act that is being reviewed. We have the Marriage and Divorce Bill that has been on shelf for a very long time.
Right.
So those laws have to be passed, but when they are passed, there has to be proper implementation, and there should be also proper and adequate resourcing so that
Right.
the right people or the right personnel are in place to ensure that the rape culture
Is
ends.
stopped. All right.
And of course, lastly, society has to have support, strong support mechanisms.
Okay.
For
survivors,
the
victims,
for the
and
victims
potential.
and potential,
Right.
because we are not supposed to be having or hearing or seeing rape cases anymore.
Thank you
It's
so much.
inhuman.
Thank you so much.
It dehumanizes
A human
the
being.
human being.
Thank you so much, Ms. Regina Bafaki, the Executive Director of Action for Development, together with Mr. Julius Chisembo, a renowned women rights activist right here in the country. Have heavy and tough conversations that you've had right here. Be sure to share this video. We'll share it on YouTube. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. We all have a role to play in ending this culture. That's it for the Kickstarter conversation this morning. This is Morning at NTV. Let's take a breather, but we'll be back with so much more. Don't go anywhere.